Hey guys, just thought I'd pop on at the beginning of this video to say this week's is a little bit longer than we normally do, but you'll see why as you go along, because it is quite comprehensive. So we go from making molds to the resin work to turning and then to the finishing. So I hope you enjoy it and I'll see you at the end. Welcome back to the Fortress of Sawdust and Resin Spaghetti. This week we are going to build two of these. We're going to build one resin on resin, and we're going to build another one which is hardwood in resin. Now, you may not be a fan of resin, but it's undeniable that it is a very colourful and versatile material. Now, Christmas, by its very nature, is colourful. What with its wrapping paper, its baubles, its tinsel, and all that kind of thing. So it's only right that we make something colourful for the season. And like I say, we're going to build two of these. We're going to do resin on resin, which is just all the bits of resin that we have left over from other projects in there to make a tree. And we're going to do hardwood in resin, which again is all the little bits and pieces we have left over from other projects. And they're going to look spectacular. First thing we need to do is make a mould. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need is something to make the mould of, which is going to be this PVC pipe. So how tall do we want to make our tree? Well, this tree is 8 inches high. So I think our new one wants to be about 9 inches. Now remember, we need to leave a little bit of space because we're going to put a wooden plug in the bottom of the mould to stop the resin running out. So I reckon that our mould itself needs to be around about 11 inches high. So we're going to mark that and we're going to cut it 11 inches. So there you go, one piece of pipe 11 inches in length. Now remember, you can use your miter saw or your hand saw to cut this because it is really soft, so don't worry about that. Speaking of saws, we need to put it on to the bandsaw now to cut down here to make two pieces. Now the reason we're going to cut it in half is because once the resin is set inside, we won't be able to get it out, no matter what we do. We do intend to line the inside with parcel tape. We'll use some mould release as well. But if it's solid like that, we're going to take days to try to get it out. So best thing to do, cut it into two pieces, a left side or right side, and then we can put it together. And then once it's set, we can prise it apart. So the next thing we need to do is we need to line both sides of the mould. Now, regardless of what kind of mould it is, if you're going to put resin in it, whether it's a river table, whether it's a little mould like this, whatever, you need to line it. The best thing to line it with is parcel tape, because resin doesn't stick to parcel tape. Okay. So there we go, both sides lined with parcel tape. So now they can just go together like that. Okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a stop so the resin doesn't fall out the bottom. For that, we're going to use a little bit of MDF and an offcut of our pipe, and we're just going to draw a circle and make a bung. There we go. Now we just cut that out. So we now have our bung. Does it fit? Yes, it does. So next thing to do, cover that with parcel tape as well. So there you go. 2 molds for resin. Now you may think that's good enough, but I know resin, and if it finds a gap, it'll be everywhere. So the last thing that I like to do before I pour resin in is put the base into a freezer bag and then wrap tape around the top of it, and then if anything does come out, it's sealed inside here and it's not all over the inside of my pressure pot. But I'd rather deal with a little bit of overkill than a pressure pot full of half cured resin. So now we can get the resin pieces put in to that one and the wooden pieces into that one, and after that we can mix some resin. Okay, so we have 2 piles of stuff. We have the wood and resin tree, which is going to be this one. Now this was a bowl that I cast which came out wrong, and rather than sort of have it wrong, we cut it up because we knew that we could use it for something else, and today is that day. It's going to be a tree. So that's going to be the wood and a resin tree. This is going to be the old resin tree. Now we've got bits like old chest pieces or bookmarks or boxes, old baubles, all kinds of things. So the next thing we're going to do is just give everything a little bit of a brush down because they are a little bit dusty, and as I go I'll bung them into the moulds. Remember that when we're putting them in, that we want them all to be different. We don't want all the clear bits together. We want a variety of different colours together. So we had white, clear, we'll have that bit in next. Piece of white, piece of a bauble, a small bookmark, so there we go. We have one with the wood and resin in, and the other one just has resin. The next thing to do is to think of a colour, mix some resin and fill them. Today's resin of choice is mould. Now if I had deep pour I would use deep pour, but this is just normal resin. But I think because we have so many pieces in here, the actual space that the resin is going to take up isn't going to be that much, so it shouldn't overheat. So it is a bit of an experiment, but I think it will be okay. Now the mixing ratio for mould is 1:1 by volume. Now this has been out in my workshop for a little while, for a few days, so it's a little thick, but by the time we've mixed it and it's been in the pressure pot for a few hours and it starts to get a bit of heat to it, it'll be fine. So we're going to do 200 of resin. That's 200 millilitres, that to you, and 200 millilitres of hardener, and then we'll see how far we get. There we go. Take our old paintbrush and mix away. Now if you think your resin is a bit too thick, you can always take the entire jug and just put it into some hot water, not boiling water, just hot water, and then mix it, and it will thin out. The heat will make it thin out and it'll end up like water, so all the voids in there will be filled. So, but I think this is going to be all right without the hot water. Remember that when you're mixing resin, scrape the bottom, scrape the sides, get it all mixed. Then we put some colour in. Colour. Let's have a look, see what we've got. It's a brand new one. Ta-da. So we'll pop it go. I think that is absolutely fine. So there we go. That's one filled. Now bear in mind, once it goes in the pressure pot and it takes all the air out of it, it will drop. So it may drop about ½ an inch, who knows, could even go more. So we have to keep an eye on it just to make sure that the tree that we're going to make isn't 6 inches high. Considering that we said it's going to be 9 inches high. So that one's ready, that can go in the pressure pot. We'll get that one done and that one can go in as well. Okay, so they're in the pressure pot. I've just put a little backy board in just so they don't fall over, because they are tall and thin. I'll put a little bit of tape over the wooden resin. I don't think they would float because there's a lot of resin holding that wood in place. But assumption is the mother of all screw-ups, so we'll put tape over just in case. So I'm going to put the top up, send it up to pressure, and then we'll come back to it in a couple of hours to see how far it's dropped. If it needs topping up, we'll top it up, and after that we'll come back to it in 3 or 4 days, or basically whenever it's set.
24 hours later.
So 2 of them done, and this is the day after we put them in. Now this normally takes about 3 or 4 days for it to go off, but we have poured it deep and it isn't deep pour resin, so it has kind of cured faster than it should. But as you see, particularly on that one, there doesn't seem to be any signs of it flash curing, but we'll find out as we take it apart and take them out, see what they're like. Okay, let's take a second just to talk about how a resin that is supposed to set in 3 or 4 days has set in less than 24 hours. The simple answer is it's flash cured, because the resin we used isn't a deep pour resin, because we don't have any, otherwise we would have used it. So we've used normal resin in a deep mould. Now I maintain that the resin should be okay inside, because all those little bits of resin that we've put in, the hard resin that we've put in, take up the majority of that void. So any liquid resin we've put in isn't in enough volume to flash cure, but it is in enough volume for it to heat up and cure quicker. Now it is currently 9 degrees outside and it is just gone 20 past 9 on the morning. So the cool temperatures through the night have helped us cure this resin quicker than it should, but has helped us not to have it boil. If it had been middle of summer, it had been above 20 degrees, it would probably have failed. But the cool temperatures outside has kept it stable enough to set quicker but not boil. So we're going to break them open now and see if there is any air bubbles inside and if we can continue with this project. Right, let's have a look. That's the bag we put on. Take that off. And no resin spilled out, so we didn't need the bag, but best to be safe than sorry. Right, where is the gap? There's the gap. Try to follow it down. So there we go. A couple of little pinholes, but they'll turn away. So that's one side off. We'll take the other side off and see how we've done. And there we go. Now it is just a tiny bit soft. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave it to one side for the day and start on it tomorrow. If we leave it on the worktop or in the corner of the workshop somewhere, it's got the rest of today and tonight to go off. There we go. That one looks about right too. Side off. So there we go, 2 blanks ready to go on the lathe. So we've got our first one on the lathe, we're all ready to go. We nipped off the end, that was just a bit untidy, and we've got the piece there, and you know where that's going to go, don't you? That's going to go into something else. Right, so as you see, we have the plant pot that the tree sits in, all done. Just needs to be sanded now. We need to tidy up the underside, this undercut of the tree, and then we can start from here, thinning it down to a point. Now we're not obviously going to go right to a point. We need a flat spot at the top because we're going to put a star on. And as you see, resin is very messy. It makes the place smell funny, and if you don't wear a mask, it'll kill you eventually. So now to start the main body of the tree. Got to leave a little bit of thickness on the end here while we get it sanded, because if I go too thin and I start sanding, I could knock it off the lathe altogether. So got to give it a bit of a, get a scraper on it, just give it a bit of a tidy up, and then we'll start sanding. So we've got it sanded to 600 grit. The next thing we're going to do is to start wet sanding it. We'll just take the dust off for the time being. We do have a couple of little holes in it. There's one there which we need to fill, which we're going to do next, I guess. And then once we've done that, we can start wet sanding it and get it super shiny. Well, we're starting to get there, as you see. So we'll just continue on. By rights we should go up to about 10,000 grit, but usually we can stop around 3,000 and put the cutting compounds on, and that should see us to a nice gloss, and then we'll put it on the plenisher just to finish off. So this is our first cutting compound, the heavy cutting compound, which is this one. So there we go. The next thing we're going to do is, rather than the heavy cut, we're going to use a medium cut and get even more shine, and then we'll finish it off with a normal polish, and then we can sort out the top. We've got one finished then. So there is the first one. We've got a little bit more work to do on the pot at the bottom. And like I say, we've got to nip the top off and just treat that so that it's a bit thinner. But all in all, I'm quite happy with that. Obviously when it is off the lathe, we'll put it on the plenisher just to get any remaining scratches out of it. But I'm happy with that one. On to the next one. So we're all finished now, and if you're still watching, we'll have a look at the results, should we? This is the all resin tree that we did. We've cast a little tiny star for the top. It's just pinned on with a piece of steel rod. So that's that one done, all polished up, and there is a tiny piece of wood in there as well, which I didn't know about, but visual interest, let's say. So that's that one. The bowl that we made, that failed, and we chopped it up to put into a tree. So that's that one. Bigger star on the top. I think that's quite successful. I quite like that one. And because I did say at the beginning that we would make a tree that was just wood and resin, I cast another one and turned that one as well. So this is just all pieces of wood that we had left over from different projects in resin. And we've got a little doodad on the top rather than one of the stars, but you know, we can take them off and change them over if we want. So there we go, and I'll put some pictures at the end of them, and hopefully you found that video quite interesting. So there you go guys, bit of a longer video than normal, but hopefully you found it interesting. We covered all the stages of making a Christmas tree, from making the molds to pouring the resin to turning to polishing, and the finished product speaks for itself. So till next week, see you later.